Hello everyone and welcome to another Marvel Crisis Protocol battle report. Didn't call it Crisis Core this time. Got a bad problem with that. There's Sora's cameo for the day. Hello Sora. She's fine. New board, got rid of all that horrible Christmas stuff, bah humbug. Now we're outside the city centre in a scrapyard or a prison yard or whatever you want to call it. First showing of MODOK on the table, so we're using the cards that come with him, which includes a 20 threat mission, so that's what we're going to be running, so that means a lot of powerful people are coming out to play. Let's go over the teams the cards are using, and then we'll cover the mission that's been set up. So this is a Cabal affiliated force, being led by Red Skull, I guess, even though MODOK is here, because MODOK is more AIM, but I think he's classed as Cabal for the purposes of this game currently. So anyway, MODOK, Red Skull, m.o.d.o.k because he's the best one in the core box for some bizarre reason, normal Ultron, not the souped up all will be metal one that we saw at Christmas, and then also m.o.d.o.k, and the tactics cards, brace for impact from the core box, and then the three that come with m.o.d.o.k, which is Psychic Fortress, which sounds really good to me, Recalibration Matrix, and AIM Lackeys, which also help remind me that sooner or later we'll get a Taskmaster miniature, which should be quite fun. So that's one side. Let's go have a look at the Avenger affiliated team. And here's the Avengers that will be taking to the field. Captain America, Black Widow, the Hulk of course, Spider-Man, and Captain Marvel. So no Iron Man on the table today. And who else is missing from the core box? Someone is. Oh, Crossbones, but that's obviously not Avengers. And tactics cards, Patch Up, Avengers Assemble, Gamma Launch, and Second Wind. So you already have seen the objectives placed on the table, but let's actually specifically go into the details about what missions are being played. So the secure objective that we're playing today is one we've seen before, Riot Sparks over Extremist 3.0, which I think was in the very first battle report we did, and we always totally forgot that you can spend power to interact with the console to heal 1 damage as long as you're within 2 of it. We'll try really hard to remember it this time. Either way, 1 victory point for Extremist consoles that are held by the most people, the most healthy people, or the most unhealthy, etc, etc. It just goes down until one team has the majority. And there's 5 consoles on the field, or 4? 4 I think. But the new one though, that comes with m.o.d.o.k for the extraction is alien ship crashes in downtown. So there's 3 rubble on the field, and players score 2 victory points if they control a character they control is holding a core during the cleanup phase. And you find a core by spending power to interact with a rubble pile. You roll 2 dice if either one is a crit. Oh no, it's going to be the Kree agent all over again. Or the Skrull, sorry. But these are Kree power cores. So basically you flip them over and they've all got the power core on the back. There's only 1 in play though, I think. Actually, maybe not. No, it doesn't say there's only 1, so all 3 of them will eventually turn into a power core. You've just got to rummage through the rubble to find them. So you can pick up the cores as well if a character is holding one drops them. A character holding the core cannot perform more than 1 move action per turn. When a character ends their activation while holding a core, it suffers 1 damage. It does not make an attack. Oh, if it did not make an attack, that activation. So it will suffer 1 damage if it didn't attack, but chances are that it will attack because it's limited to only making 1 move. Okay. We'll get the models deployed and then just show you where everything is on the board. So everything has been set up properly. The Cabal have chosen this edge and are going first for winning the roll off. So we've got m.o.d.o.k and Red Skull there, Ultron and m.o.d.o.k off by himself being a Billy No Mates in the corner. And then this is another thing with the being limited to 6 potential deployment types for objectives. 2 Extremist consoles are right next to 2 of the locations of the crashed Skrull, the other people, the people that kill them. I'm blanking on the name even though I just read it. The Kree! Like the Civilization and Civilization 6 who have terrible music. Anyway, so there's an Extremist console there. There's 1 next to that power core. There's a power core basically in the centre of the map. It should be like there's. And there's 1 around there. And then the Avengers have set up basically all together, except Captain Marvel, who's also Billy No Mates. So that about covers it. The Cabal side is going first. Everybody's generated 1 power except Hulk, who gets 3 in total. And with that, let's get Battle Round 1 started. So Ultron got the game started. He moved up so he's between both the pile of rubble and the Extremist console there. He spent 1 power to search the rubble pile. 2 dice trying to get a crit. That old chestnut didn't get a crit, so he did not manage to find the Kree power core hidden in the rubble there. Other people can try that exact same pile to try and get it, so if Red Skull wanted to come over and try, he can. It's just Ultron couldn't. He opted to stay still so that he's claiming this Extremist console for the victory point at the cleanup phase. So there is no messing about on the Avengers side. Hulk means business. He activated, he spent his 3 power on Gamma Launch, and although the picture shows him chucking Spider-Man, he actually chucked Captain America. We've seen this before, but just in case you haven't. If Hulk is within 2 of another ally character who's not holding an asset or civilian, you can spend 3 to play this. He chucks them distance 5, which is about the size of a ruler. It's very, very far. So he picked up Captain America, bounced him, and put him there, so he's very close to that middle objective there. That doesn't count as an action, so he still had stuff to do, although he had no power. So he just moved small once, so he's still within capture range of that Extremis console. Didn't do anything with that pile of rubble or anything like that, because he has no power left. But it's getting Cap into a good position right up the field. The horrible flashbacks that Skrull Agent continues with Red Skull activating. He was next to the rubble, or rather moved next to the rubble. He used power to search the rubble for the Kree power core and didn't find it. No crits. He then just moved again, kind of semi-obscured so he would get cover if he gets shot at or anything like that. And that's it, that's all he could do. Back over to the Avengers. Steve Rogers activated, he moved just a little bit next to the, so he was within 1 inch of the rubble pile, spent his 1 power to search it, didn't find the Kree power cell. So from there, for his other action, he did a shield throw. It doesn't need line of sight, it doesn't benefit from cover, or rather the target doesn't benefit from cover. So he kind of went boing, 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 smacked Red Skull for just 1 damage, because Red Skull's pretty good at defending against physical attacks. No wilds on the success, so no chance of a ricochet bounce into Ultron or whatever. But 1 damage done, so at least he did something. But yeah, the flashbacks to not being able to get a crit on 2 dice is way too strong. The leader of AIM himself, M.o.d.o.k, decided to activate. He couldn't do much, he moves small as well, and he needs power to really unleash on people. He's very similar to the Hulk in that regard, I guess. So he moved up small, he's banking his 1 power and just sitting on the Extremis console to claim it. He's got 10 health on his healthy side, I think, so he's quite tanky, although the balance for that is on his weak side he only has like 4 HP, so if you actually get him down, he's very easy to take out properly. It's just the initial burst is a little hard to get through. But anyway, he wasn't able to do anything other than claim that console. It is exceptionally unlikely that anyone is going to do 10 damage to him to change that, so take that into consideration as we go over to the Avengers. So a little awkward location wise, but Black Widow activated. She moved once to the far side of this rubble pile. She spent her power to search it and found nothing. She then moved round here and couldn't do anything else. She's not within range to be claiming that Extremis console, so she had nothing else to do. Just frustrated in general at the lack of... Look, if I do it on camera, we did it on camera at the end of the last one. That's an immediate crit. That would have been the Kree agent had that roll been relevant. It wasn't though. When it matters, it doesn't happen. Back over to the Cabal. Baron Zemo activated next and made use of his fantastic movement to kind of go whoop whoop for 1 and then whoop whoop for 2. So he is right there. He's banked his power because he doesn't need it to claim the Extremis console. He just needs to be around it. And that means it's either Captain Marvel or Spider-Man to go next for the Avengers. Captain Marvel activated. She had to double move in order to get close enough to be contesting the Extremis console there with Baron Zemo, so she was not able to attack. That's hard to say. So she just ended her turn there, and that brings us to Doc Ock to end for the Cabal, and then over to Spider-Man for the Avengers. Might cover both of those together, assuming it's just movement, but we'll see. So we are just going to cover the last 2 activations of Battle Round 1 real quick, because Doc Ock, he opted to move up twice just so he now gives the Cabal the majority there, rather than just trying to smack Captain Marvel or Black Widow once. So he's going for the victory point there. And then over here, Spider-Man moved up, he searched this rubble pile, and he found a Kree power source. So that's on his card now, and he's not allowed to move because he moved once in a turn in which he's holding that. So presumably it applies retroactively, kind of, because it's still the same turn. And he couldn't reach M.o.d.o.k with his attacks range 4, so he just ended his turn where he was, and that also means he didn't do an attack, so the power source does 1 damage to him for not making use of the power, I guess. And that takes us to the cleanup and victory points for the turn. So the points as they stand at the end of the battle round: the Cabal control 3 Extremis consoles, this one via Ultron, this one via M.o.d.o.k, and this one majority with Baron Zemo and Doc Ock because Black Widow is not within claiming range. So that is 3 victory points, and then the Avengers hold the one right at the back there because Spider-Man and Hulk are there for 1 victory point. And then, because Spider-Man is holding a Kree power source, that's 2 victory points. So it actually means as we go into battle round 2, with the Cabal still going first, because Spider-Man had last turn there, it's even on 3 victory points each. So to get battle round 2 started, Mr. Way Too Good Baron Zemo activated. He stayed where he was and did Steel Rush for 2 power. It only did 1 damage to Captain Marvel. Then he just did his basic strike and it did so much better. It did 3 damage and got bleed through on a wild. So she's got 2 HP left on her healthy side, generated a lot of power, but is now hurting a lot. And he opted just to stay where he was to still claim that Extremist console. So we're staying over here, and this is why you shouldn't give Captain Marvel a bunch of power and make her angry. So, first of all, she used a superpower. She used her, what's it called, Danvers special? Yeah, when she picks up someone and throws them, she threw Baron Zemo at m.o.d.o.k for 1 damage. m.o.d.o.k passed his evade roll and took no damage at all. Then she did Rocket Punch for 3 power, which only did 2 damage. That's her best attack. It just got very unlucky. He did very well with his defense. Then she just did a normal energy blast, and it got ridiculously lucky and did 4 damage. Way more than his maximum HP, so the activation token is changed to Daze. Baron Zemo will flip his card at the end of the turn. He wasn't holding anything, so hasn't dropped it. Problem though is Captain Marvel did not heal her bleed, so at the end of her turn she took 1 damage. She's 1 away from turning over her card. I think the bleed goes away at the end of the round regardless of whether she didn't heal it or not, but it might not matter if she goes down anyway. So, back over to the Cabal. MODOK activated next. He moved ever so slightly, so he was closer to his intended targets. He used 2 powers for Imbecile All the World as a weapon to MODOK. He picked up the crate that was behind him, which we're counting as size 3, and he chucks it long, I think it was. Either way, it's medium range to get to Cap, and that's who he threw it at. Cap spent 1 power, thanks to a day like any other, on Vibranium Shield to try and protect against it. He failed, and it did 3 damage. MODOK, he only had used 1 action from the move, and the superpower doesn't count. So then he did a Psionic Blast, which is actually a Mystic attack. The only one in the game currently, I think. On Cap, who, despite not having good Mystic defense, was actually able to block that entirely. However, he has taken 3 damage. Oh, also the Psionic Blast, if you get a wild, saps power, so he actually lost one of the power generated from being smacked in the face by a shipping container. So MODOK did well. He stayed within range to be claiming that. And even with the Hulk there, he's not that likely to get shifted, but I guess we'll see. So Steve Rogers activated next. He spent 1 power to search the rubble pile. I'm zooming all the way in because I hate these rubble piles, just on behalf of both sides, because it was not a Kree power source. So then he stood his ground and threw his shield twice at MODOK, who was just within range. Second one whiffed entirely. The first one did much better for 3 damage. Not that Red Skull was within ricochet range anyway, but just as a point of note, a wild on the shield throw means it can ricochet and bounce. However, MODOK has a passive called Psionic Defense, I think, where wilds in the attack roll against him are switched to blanks, which also take away from the damage. It would have been 4 damage. So he got hit, he's down to 7 HP, but Steve Rogers is just rummaging through that rubble and not finding anything. Red Skull activated, and this was a busy turn for him. That it's important to know the difference between superpowers that count as actions and ones that don't. So first of all, he used Cosmic Cube, which gives him 3 power, and then he has 5 chances to hurt himself, but didn't get hurt. That does count as an action. He then used a different superpower, Master of the Cube. What's it called? Which one was it? Yeah, Master of the Cube, so someone within 4 of him gets moved 2. He moved Ultron 2 to where you can see him there, so he's better positioned to get around the corner at Steve Rogers, basically. Then he used his other proper action to move where Ultron was, and then spent a power looking through the rubble and found nothing. So he did for like 4 things there, but still only 2 actions, so just making sure that's clear. Back over to the Avengers. That was a smashing turn for the Hulk. Sorry. Anyway, he moved up small, so he was within 2 of MODOK, then knock over a sign. He spent 2 power, but it became 1 thanks to a day like any other, to do strongest one there is, to throw MODOK medium. So he chucked him at Ultron, and then just used his other action to move small, because I think although friendly models can walk through each other, they can't walk through enemy ones, so he's just trying to block the passage a little bit. So MODOK took 1 damage from the impact. Now, Ultron would have taken 4 damage, which would have been incredible because MODOK is a chunky so-and-so, so he whiffed on his chance to dodge. So it did a lot of damage. However, upon remembering that the card was in the deck, Brace for Impact was played, which I don't think we've seen used before. It's a reactive. If one or more allied characters would suffer a collision, they may spend 1 power to play this card. Ultron had exactly 1 power left on him because he hadn't done anything yet. Characters that spend power do not suffer damage from this collision. So technically that means MODOK could have spent the power as well, I guess, because he's also part of the collision, but whatever. I don't think, he does have power. I guess we'll cover that if it's changed. But either way, Technically should have been played before damage was worked out. But we're doing it now. So that 4 damage that would have hurt Ultron real bad got countered by Brace for Impact. Hulk still had a good turn though. And it's back over to the Cabal. Dr. Octopus activated for the Cabal. He stayed where he was and did a strike on Captain Marvel and one on Black Widow. Both would have been on Captain Marvel had the first one not landed. It only needed to do 1 damage. I think it did 2 or 3. Doesn't matter. She is dazed, so she'll be flipping over her card as well for the next turn. The other strike on Black Widow wasn't able to do anything, but he stayed where he was, so he's still claiming that Extremist console. If she moves in, which she's, I mean, why wouldn't she? That'll mean that's a draw on that one because of the other 2 being dazed. So it's either her going next or Spider-Man still has to go as well. And if he doesn't attack, he takes damage again from that Kree power source. So a couple of quick activations. Black Widow moved up just enough to be contesting that Extremist console. She tried to use her energy strikes on Dr. Octopus and did no damage. That was it for her activation. Ultron activated. He has flight. Totally forgot. So it doesn't matter if M.O.D.o.k is blocking the way or Hulk is blocking the way because he can just fly over them. So he flew next to this Extremist console to now be contesting it. He didn't use his other action because he didn't want to make the Hulk angry, because if you starve him of damage, he is much less dangerous than the alternative. So didn't touch him. Captain America and Spider-Man were both out of range, so that was it. And that was it for the Cabal. So to end off the turn, it's going to be Spider-Man, who has to land an attack or he takes 1 damage, and that will also mean the Cabal is going first again in the next battle round. So Spider-Man, perhaps wisely, I don't know, decided just to back up a little bit and stand his ground to be claiming that Extremist console, because that means he's generating 3 victory points, so the fact he's taking 1 damage as a result, I would say that's a fair shake, honestly. So that takes us to the cleanup for the second battle round. So then the battle round 2, 2 Extremist consoles are contested. This one because 2 healthy characters are fighting over it. Same over here, but dazed ones don't apply. So neither of those give out points, but Red Skull is holding the one down here, Spider-Man is holding the one up there for 1 victory point each. But Spider-Man still has the only Kree power source in play currently, because those other piles of rubble are apparently just needles in a haystack. So he got 2 victory points for that, making the Avengers pull ahead at 6 playing 4. And again, as we go into battle round 3, the Cabal get first activation, and we're going to go generate some power and get started with that. So to get battle round 3 started, Baron Zemo was the first to activate again, because he's a monster. He spent a total of 4 power on 2 steel rushes on Black Widow to just try and take her out and to get her to her unhealthy side, because then Doc Ock has priority for the objective. The first one got through for 3 damage, she has 4 HP. He did bleed her, but the second one whiffed. He's allowed to do a free medium move after as well, that's why he shifted slightly. So Black Widow is bleeding and has 1 HP left. So she'll have to either waste an action or be willing to die at the end of her turn. We'll see what happens. So Carol Danvers activated and she showed why she should not be ignored. She had a busy turn. So first of all, she spent 3 power to play Patch Up and healed Black Widow for 3 damage as a result. So she's still bleeding, but she's healed back to full health. So that was a tactics card used, it's gone for the game, which is important to mention because you might be asking why wasn't Brace for Impact used again? They're 1 use per game. So then she spent, well, it would have been 2 but went down to 1, or 3 down to 2, on Danvers Special to throw Baron Zemo. No, sorry, no, first of all she just struck him and did very well and did 4 damage. Yeah, 4 damage with the Danvers Special, which in turn generated enough power for her to then also chuck him right afterwards. She technically had another action left, I think, because she played the tactics card, then she spent a normal strike for 1 action, then she threw Baron Zemo, but Baron Zemo was thrown via a superpower that isn't an action. I mean, either way, this time Doc Ock didn't dodge, took 2 damage. Baron Zemo is dead. She did the full 5 health he has on his wounded side, so he is gone, removed after this. But I think she does actually still have 1 action left. Need to double check if tactics cards count as an action. Back in a second. So yeah, just to reconfirm, this is one of those rules that just doesn't stick in my head. Tactics cards, or team tactics cards, do not count as an action. They are not listed as an action, so therefore she had only done 1 thing, so she tried to energy blast Doc Ock and missed. So in the end it didn't matter anyway, but the 2 damage from him being smacked by Baron Zemo's corpse still applies. The mighty M.O.D.o.K activated. He moved small to get next to Captain America, then spent, oh, I think it was 4 power or something, it's expensive. Doomsday Chair, which is like a 7 physical attack. Cap used 1 power to do Vibranium Shield to try and protect against it. 4 damage still got through, so that is Captain America dazed. He is not getting a turn this battle round. Interesting thing as well about Doomsday Chair, if there's another allied enemy character within 2 of the original target, you get to do it again on that new target for free. Can't do it on the same target though, it's very clear on that. So that's m.o.d.o.k's turn. Oh, sorry, he also spent 1 power to search that rubble pile, and much like Cap, he found nothing. But he did manage to take out Captain America. So now it's over to the Avengers. So the Hulk activated next, and oof, big oof. This was an interesting turn, and perhaps proof that ignoring the Hulk is not the best strategy for dealing with him. So, what did he do? Well, first of all, he spent 2 but down to 1 power to throw Ultron medium with strongest one there is, chucked him into m.o.d.o.k, took 1 damage from the impact. m.o.d.o.k took 3 because his physical defense is appalling, so he wasn't able to dodge and took 3 damage. Then, with them nicely lined up within range 3, which cut off just before Cap, although it wouldn't matter because Captain America isn't classed as being there right now, he did a thunderclap for 3 power, and that did 5 damage to Ultron, so Ultron's on 1 HP, as my watch dings at me, and then m.o.d.o.k from the thunderclap took 4, but he only needed, 2 or 3, and he is dazed. So m.o.d.o.k will be flipping his card over in between turns. Ultron's got 1 HP, he still gets a turn, but wow, Hulk smash, real good there. Additional correction that makes this even worse. Forgot about the 1 impact damage from Ultron being thrown at m.o.d.o.k, so he is actually dazed. He doesn't get a turn. Double big oof. So Johann Schmidt activated, and he didn't do much with his turn, honestly. He spent a power to search the rubble, didn't get a crit, so there's nothing there, and just opted to stay to be claiming that, and Hulk was just out of range of... Actually, didn't even have the power for Unleash the Cubes, so there wasn't much he could do. Over to Black Widow or Spider-Man. Black Widow activated, stayed where she was. She spent 1 action to heal the bleed on herself, and then she spent the other with 2 power to do mixed combat technique on Doc Ock. Only did 1 damage, so not too much there. And now it's over to Doc Ock to end the turn for the Cabal, and then Spider-Man for the Avengers. So to go over the last 2 activations of the turn. First of all, Doc Ock he spent the power, 6 power in total, to fire 2 arm lasers at Black Widow for a total of 4 damage. She is dazed, so she's flipping over her card. For Spider-Man's turn, because Ultron and m.o.d.o.k are dazed, there's no way he's getting in range, so he's just staying where he is to take 1 damage and generate 3 victory points. And we'll cover all that in the cleanup phase. So that was an interesting one as we pass over the halfway point into Battle Round 4. Cabal, claim this one. Cabal claimed this one because Doc Ock is healthy and Captain Marvel isn't, and Black Widow's dazed, so that's 2 points there. Hulk claims this one. Spider-Man claims that one for 2 victory points, so that's 2 victory points each for the Extremist consoles. And obviously Spider-Man still has the only Kree power source in play for an additional 2, and he has taken 1 damage, so he's sitting on 3 damage now from doing basically nothing except generating victory points. So as we go into Battle Round 4, it is 10-6 in the Avengers' favour, and it's still the Cabal going first. So m.o.d.o.k went first this turn, and he had a good turn. He started by using the Team Tactic card Psychic Fortress for 3. So what that does is he counts as being in cover for the rest of the round. That just means he has an automatic 1 success on defend rolls, but also allies within 4 get the same benefit of cover. So then he spent power on doing Doomsday Chair on Captain America, didn't do any damage, did manage to get the bleed off on him though, which does not require damage to be done to proc. Then he spent a power to search the rubble, and he found another Kree power cell, so it's on his person, was just leaving it there to cover what happened. He was going to spend the power to do another Doomsday Chair on Captain America, but instead opted for his final action to move small, out of range over there, to start fleeing with the power cell, because on his wounded side he only has, 4 HP, so he needs to skedaddle, as we say here. Just when he was about to become the hero that the Cabal needed, Captain Marvel activated. She rocket punched m.o.d.o.k for 3 damage. She then used her second action to move, and then spent 2, because of A Day Like Any Other, on Danvers' special to throw Doc Ock at m.o.d.o.k. Doc Ock took 1 damage, m.o.d.o.k took 2. He is dead. The ugly gentleman himself is gone, and also he dropped the Kree power core he was holding. It gets placed by the opponent, and that's why it's over by Black Widow, who's probably going to snatch it up. That's unfortunate for poor m.o.d.o.k. So Doc Ock activated, he did what he had to do, he moved up, he spent a power to pick up the Kree power source. He then just tried to strike Black Widow because he could have potentially taken her out. In the end he did nothing. He's only got 1 HP remaining, but it was the best bet to try and deny some points. Black Widow activated, and she spent a total of 4 power on 2 mixed combats. She just had to do 1 damage to Doc Ock and was not able to, so he's still alive and well and holding the power cell. So Ultron activated, and it was maybe an important activation. He moved to block the passage so that Captain America can't fit past him. He then used Metallic Fury on him, however, thanks to Cap being on his weakened side and having I can do this all day, so he counts blanks as blocks. Plus he used 1 power to do Vibranium Shield because it's his first power of his turn, so at 1 less cost. He did not take any damage. He still hasn't activated yet, and he still has the bleed to deal with, but also Ultron should really be. You know, the idea was to block the passage so that he can't get around to Doc Ock, so he should be there. So now it's over to either Captain America, Hulk, or Spider-Man. So Captain America activated, he did his shield throw on Ultron, it bounced off him. He did get a ricochet, so it hit Doc Ock in the back of the head, however he did not take damage from it, sadly. So he decided to take the bleed, do another shield throw, hoping it would bounce off of Ultron. The second one did actually hurt Ultron for 2, but did not get a wild, so it can't bounce. So he ended his turn. Captain America took 1 damage, Ultron took 2 from the second shield throw, smashing him in the side of the head. So now it's just Red Skull for the Cabal, and then Hulk and Spider-Man for the Avengers. So Red Skull's activation was pretty nondescript. Not nondescript, that's not what I mean. Ineffective is more the word. He spent a power to search the rubble, found nothing, and with nothing else to do, he stayed to claim that Extremis console. So Spider-Man's going to stand still again to take 1 damage but generate 3 victory points, so that just leaves the Hulk. And there is something he can do, I think, because he could obviously just sit there for 1 as well, but there is a way for him to take out Doc Ock, so we'll be back after that to see if it happens. Yeah, Hulk was smart there and threaded the needle and found the solution. So he had 4 power, and in total he did 4 things, because 2 of them were superpowers that don't count as actions. So first he Gamma Leapt, which means he moved 2, and its cost was reduced by 1 thanks to a day like any other. He then spent his remaining 2 to throw Ultron, for 1 damage to Ultron, at Doc Ock, who failed the dodge. Well, he succeeded to avoid 2 of the damage, but the damage done is size plus 1, so 2 damage still went through, only 1 was needed. Doc Ock is dazed. He has dropped the Kree power cell right there, and then because Hulk technically hadn't done any actions yet, he moved small to be back in range of that Extremis console. He technically has 1 more action, but there's nothing to do. I guess he could have smacked Ultron again, but at this point I don't think it matters. So that takes us to the end of the battle round. Let's add up the points. So a little think later as we tally up the score at the end of Battle Round 4. I think the game's going to end here, but just to go over it real quick. The Cabal hold this Extremis console for 1 victory point. The Avengers hold that one, and that one because Doc Ock is stunned. They're both on their unhealthy side, but so is Ultron, so that's another 1 there. Spider-Man is still holding a power cell for an additional 2. Now next turn he couldn't do that because he's 1 more damage away from dying, well, from going to his day's side, but he can just opt to drop it and still get the point for the Extremis console. So basically, that puts the scores at 15 for the Avengers, 7 for the Cabal. There is no way to catch up in 2 turns because the Avengers are definitely getting to 16 next turn. They just need to score 1. The Hulk's at full HP. As I say, Spider-Man can drop the thing he's holding and just stand next to that one. Captain America can get round the corner there to give them majority of holding that. There's no way for the Cabal to catch up. We're going to call it there and move on to the conclusion. So that was an interesting one, and I hope you enjoyed, but just to do the official stuff, the Cabal have conceded the victory to the Avengers, because if we played 1 more battle round, there was no way that the Cabal could make up the difference while the Avengers had to score literally 0. There's just no way that was going to happen. So it is a victory to the Avengers, 15 plays 7. It might have been like 16 playing 12 at best at the end of another turn, but obviously still not good enough. That was a fun one. M.o.d.o.k, it's a shame that M.o.d.o.k went down, but he had a couple of really good turns. It's just once he flips over to his day's side, he's as easy to take out, essentially. Well, even easier to take out than Black Widow, because at least she has to be within 3 to be targeted, and she can dodge a little better. He's got bad dodges, so that's definitely the secret to M.o.d.o.k. Get him to his weak side as soon as possible. He is dangerous once he has power, because those Doomsday Chairs, again, for every 1 Doomsday Chair he can do, he can hit another hero if they're within range, or enemy rather. So if you're clumping together to try and beat him, he could actually really, really hurt. Ranged, like people who are really good at ranged would be good against him, I think. But we got to see some of his tactics cards as well. And I suppose the good guys are supposed to win anyway. So that is going to do it. Please do show your support if you want to see more Marvel Crisis Protocol in the future. Check out the other battle reports, the painting videos, and any other tabletop game that we cover here that you might be interested in. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the new year. Ta-ta for now.